How's it going, Lucy fans? Welcome to a brand new Lucifer Season 5B video. So since there hasn't been much news, to be honest, in terms of like tangible stuff, trailers, you name it, for Season 5 Part 2 or 5B, whatever you want to call it, I thought today, since a lot of you have been wanting to see a Lucifer video on the channel, that it's time for a what we kind of know so far about Lucifer Season 5 Part B. So, before we get into the details of new castings, the upcoming titles of episodes, which could possibly hint at things as well, where they're at with filming and how much they finished of Season 5B and, you know, on to Season 6 even, I think we first need to talk about the story. So a lot of you are up to date with where the showrunners have explained where things are exactly going next season with God, Lucifer, Michael, you name it. Because the upcoming Lucifer Season 5B has been teased to be the most emotional season thus far out of, well, apparently the whole series. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I may miss out a detail or two if you want to get nit and grit, like Trixie's gonna buy an ice cream in episode 11 of Season 5. I'm sorry if I missed something like that out. But just to interject as well, there will be timestamps on this video in the video bar and the timestamps in the top pinned comment. So if you want to skip to certain parts of the story details, the new cast coming to the show, episode title names, the filming details, feel free to do that. But to start, just going off what I said about what was teased with the darkness of 5A, lightness is mixed in with 5B, but Joe Henderson, one of the showrunners, feels that 5A started a little lighter. But 5B will be both brighter and even darker still, and is always darkest before the dawn. And also, it does pick directly up after the end of Season 5A. So much of Season 5B, and this is what a lot of you would imagine it to be about anyway, is about exploring the family relationship and the emotional aspects of that. I mean, we've got God, or Dad, who is home now, and he's not happy with what his kids have been up to, and that's why they wanted to end it on that kind of kids squabbling in the living room, so they say. Henderson goes on to say when describing all of this, there's so much of what has come up until this very moment has been everyone interpreting what their father wants, everyone trying to guess at that, everyone trying to live up to those expectations, whether or not they're actually the expectations their father has, because he works in mysterious ways. Now he's finally here, and so much of it is going to be about these children deciding which questions to ask and how he chooses to answer them. This will be a big part of the fun of Season 5B. Another cool part I found is when Ildi Modrovich, one of the showrunners, said about this is that the trick was to still try and keep him somewhat enigmatic. She goes on to say, I think we found, and hopefully you guys will feel this way, the answer in finding what God had to contend with. We didn't just want God showing up and being like, let me help you. What is he going through, and what does he have to learn, or what's going to change in him by being on Earth? And that's something I'm really I think we're all looking forward to seeing God on Earth. I honestly didn't necessarily think this show, and the showrunners have articulated this before as well, get the big man himself in the series. That is a huge deal, and well, I don't have to stress that to you. A big part of the first episode back of Season 5B is what Lucifer was going to say and what happens between then and now while Lucifer is dealing with his dad returning, because I think you can all guess what those 3 words were going to be. And as for those I love you words to Chloe, it seems that the new state of events will derail everything in that sector. I mean, at least for a little while. I mean, it's not going to just be that, oh, happy ending straight away. With all of this added family drama, it's going to kind of put a little bit of a pause on the Dexter kind of situation. And as for why Lucifer struggles so much with those words, the showrunners have explained that last year in an answer that we basically already know already, in how that is Lucifer's journey, and really for almost the entire series. He's trying, he starts off the selfish, rebellious child who feels like he's been wronged and is waiting for somebody to love him, when really what he needs to do is figure out how to love somebody else. And that's what they will explore very deeply in Season 5B. Now, as for those Lucifer and Chloe moments, the showrunners are completely on board and want more of that themselves, as they declare themselves as the biggest fans. But as much as they want moments of them together, they also kind of love to tear them apart. So they go on to say that so much of what we try to do is give ourselves those moments that we feel the fans will love, while also continuing to explore the journey of a devil who gets in his own way more often than he might like. So much of the show is we are our own worst enemy, and that's both Lucifer and Chloe on this journey. Sometimes our insecurities, our issues, they get in our way. We want to explore that while still giving the fans the Dexter goodies that they love because we love them too. So, you know, I think you guys can, you know, it's fairly self-explanatory. I think it's going to be kind of, not, I don't want to use the word dragged out in terms of how close they were in that mid-season finale, but it's going to be delayed a little bit. And don't forget that they got a renewal for Season 6, so for sure there was going to be a little bit of rewriting there for the Season 5 finale, which was going to be the season finale. Things will have to adjust to, I'm guessing, drag that out even further into that final, I guess you would say, send-off season, which was just going to be Season 5. But hey, we've got another one now. Now, after we had Dan, good old Detective Douche, have a fairly, you know, quite impulsive reaction to Lucifer being the devil. The showrunners explain that what they always try to do is how different each character reacts to Lucifer, and they want to make sure that every single one feels different, and that kind of hopefully hints at another reveal. Ella, we need to see that reaction. Please do it. But with Dan, of course, a lot of it is Michael's manipulations put into place. But interestingly, one of the episodes in 5B is an episode that really digs into Dan, because Dan is the one character they actually haven't had an episode focus on. Now, what about the big bad, or should I say, what about Michael being the big bad in 5B? Well, the showrunners did explain that he doesn't go away, but there are other very bad characters. So I honestly take that as Michael isn't the kind of big bad of 5B, but he will still be present, of course, but just don't expect him to be poised up on the big bad seat like it was staged to be in the 5A. Joe Henderson does go on to explain that to a certain extent the antagonist is God, in as much that he is the person that Lucifer really wants to have a talk with, and that becomes a big part of the conversation, because every time they bring in a new character, they're not necessarily the big bad we see them as. But to add another spin on this big bad talk, they go and say that this is true of Season 5 especially, is that the giant foil is actually Lucifer himself. He's his own worst enemy, God's presence exacerbates that, and of course Michael's presence also exacerbates that. So how is he getting his own way? That's a lot of the journey of 5B, and yeah, I think yet again, that's something we all kind of know already. I mean, think about it, Lucifer was always somewhat got in his own way in his journey of development, but now with dear old dad there, who he's had a lot of pent-up anger about, and with his mischievous brother Michael, who we've already seen all the ways that he is flawed and manipulated several people in the first half of Season 5. That's going to be something that might draw out the, I guess, slightly flawed side of Lucifer before some reconciliation goes on between him and his dad, and dare I say it, maybe even him and Michael. And also, I thought I'd chuck this in here. Leslie Ann Brand said that Maze has a great scene in the back half with God, and that you get to see her demon face in that scene. So just addressing all those theories out there, will Maze get a soul? Is it possible for a demon to get a soul? I don't know, but the fact that we're going to get Maze revealing her demon face to God in a scene, and technically God himself does have the power to blink into existence a soul for a demon. I'm sure it's not going to be that straightforward, but we know that's Maze's kind of plot and self-journey. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that scene and seeing Maze's kind of horrific demon face. But let's move on to production now. So I've spoke about production before, and I think that was my last Lucifer update video, because on that front, things have maintained relatively the same kind of news throughout the months. But if you guys remember, the production for Season 5B, TV Line revealed quite a few months ago now that Lucifer would resume its production on Season 5 on September 24th, 2020, and that was true, as cast members did return to the set a couple of days before that, around the 22nd. We've also had it revealed sometime after this in October that all the episodes up to 16 of Season 5, the finale, were more or less kind of locked and loaded and ready to go. And that episode 16 was still being tweaked, with explanations that each episode, of course, takes a while, and with the finale being an heavy emphasis on this from Joe Henderson, a very expensive episode. Can you imagine what's going to go down in the Season 5 finale when he really emphasizes that? I'm really looking forward to it. And I believe anyway, if I remember correctly, they only needed to film the finale for Season 5 when they resumed filming after the pandemic, because before the pandemic hit, that was the only episode they really had left to do. And then they were also filming Season 5 and 6 back to back, of which Season 6 commenced filming back in October 2020. So that makes sense with how they only had like 16 to film and kind of wrap up. And then bang, straight into season 6 filming in October of 2020. With what's left of season 5, episode 16, the finale, still kind of being tweaked in post-production, VFX, and dubs. And the most recent update, which was actually only like several days ago, January 2021, here we are. LD Modrovich on January 2nd said that season 5B is still being worked on with the VFX and dubbing. So like, I know that's something I've already said, but that's the most latest update. So really, you know, it's just about lock and loading that final episode. But it's not only that comes into account when taking into account the release date, because with all of this in mind, you know, I'm sure you're asking by now, when the heck are we gonna see Lucifer season 5B? Like, why haven't we really seen it already? And that's something that I thought was going to be a possibility by now, because as it was reported, all the episodes were basically locked and loaded up before the pandemic really hit, right up until that finale. So if that's all they had to do, surely they can make that turnaround happen by January, where we are now. But now with things having moved to present day, I think we're going to be lucky, like pretty lucky, if we see it in the next couple of months, because as we know, they're describing all of the episodes as more or less locked and loaded, done up until the finale. But then there comes other little bits of, you know, knitting grit in terms of what Netflix has to do with the marketing, among other things. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to near springish, to be honest. Of which late March does sound like a ways away, but here's to hoping that we do see it sometime before then. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if it is around then, but I do think that would be quite painful for Lucy fans out there to maybe even have to wait until the second quarter of 2021 to finally see season 5B. But the thing is, we still haven't really even seen any major marketing for season 5B with any trailers for all the collective episode footage that they've already got more or less locked and loaded. So that's interesting, but ultimately we're gonna have to wait and see for this. I'm hoping for a near spring release date, so hopefully sometime before March, but you know, just to put in brackets, it could be later than that, but let's hope not. Now, as for the episode names, we've known these for quite a while, and I believe they've even moved on to Season 6 names, but I will save that for like a Season 6 future update video. But the Season 5 episode titles that we've got thus far are as follows. Episode 509 is Family Dinner. 510 is Bloody Celestial Karaoke Jam, which is actually the musical episode, with which I'm assuming a lot of you have already seen the scene at DC Fandom that they teased from this episode. It looks pretty interesting. Episode 511 is Resting Devil Face. 512, Daniel Espinosa Naked and Afraid. 513, A Little Harmless Stalking. 514, Nothing Lasts Forever. 515, Is This Really How It's Going to End? And 516, A Chance at a Happy Ending, which, as I said, there's no way there wasn't a slight rewrite there, considering they got a whole extra season after that. So it's going to be interesting, and I've been theorizing this for a long time, trying to figure out in my head, what was that original ending? Fair enough. And what have they done with all of that filler writing they've put in between for Season 6 to move it right to the end of Season 6? That is still going to engage fans just as much and not make it seem like it's been dragged out, because I really hope it doesn't come across that way, considering that original ending, 516, was the ending for the whole series. And lastly, guys, cast. New guest stars, new cast members. Let's talk about that, but of course we have to start, even though you kind of already know this one, with, as we all know, the biggest one, and I think we're all looking forward to most, Dennis Haybert, who is coming in as God. Announced this time last year, believe it or not. Man, last year flew by so quick, considering God was announced in January 2020, and bang, we're here in January 2021. And it does seem that we will be seeing him for quite a bit, if you're wondering about how often God will be in this show, because the Twitter account for Lucifer teased this. When could the release date of 5B possibly be? We can't reveal that, but here's what we can reveal. Get ready for, and then obscure message, extended stay on, you know, load of stars. And most fans have taken this to mean God's extended stay on Earth, meaning like, oh, like it's kind of not like the biblical history. This time he's going to stick around for a bit longer, and I really am really interested to see how they handle that character and how sparingly, if not actually, they will handle his character in the episodes ahead. Now, as for the other new cast members, we have Mark de Rios will appear in episode 9 and 10 as Juan Perez. I'm sorry, by the way, if I butcher any of these names. We have Danielle Houtmer, who will be playing April Peterson in episode 9. Chris Payne Gilbert will be returning for the final episode after appearing previously in the series way back in season 2 as John Decker, and that's very interesting, at least to me, and I'm sure many of you, and what way he's going to be used, perhaps in a heaven kind of way. I don't know. Jeremy Tran will be appearing in episode 14 as Lapa Kim. We also have Alison McCarthy guest starring as Elizabeth Newman in episode 14. Catherine Dent will be appearing as Dr. Alice Porter. Terry Reeves will be joining episode 10 as Colonel O'Brien. And Scott Porter is coming to Lucifer season 5 and 6, meaning that this recurring character could be quite an important one, and fans are speculating that he could be an angel, possibly Castiel, of which a lot of fans have speculated about that arrival of that character for quite some time, which is very, very interesting. And as I said, the fact that he's recurring season 5 and 6 must mean he's just more than your average character. So I think that more or less wraps up all the main tidbits I think you guys should know about. As I said, whether Trixie goes down and gets an ice cream and I don't know what, I may have left out details like that, but I hope you guys appreciate the kind of, wrap up of main details here. But let me know if you have any suggestions for future Lucifer content. Of course, subscribe to the channel for any updates on major stuff, because you can trust that I will be doing trailer breakdowns or any major announcements. There will be a video for it. But if there's no videos, it's just because I feel like there's nothing going on. But if you have any extra suggestions for theory videos, you want to bring something to my attention with a very, very popular fan theory that maybe I could break down and give my opinion on, I would love to do that. But other than that, let me know what you're most excited about for Season 5B. I trust that I'll hopefully be doing an early review for it like I did with Season 5A with my early access that Netflix gave me, so I hope that will be going on again, and I can give you my honest impressions for how this continues Season 5 story. But yeah, like this video if you did enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Lucy fans in the next video. Goodbye.